What if we get the Sands of Time remake, but it was changed? What if they announce on a Warrior Within remake as well, even though it was confirmed that they are not working on it? What if they decide to remake the whole Sands of Time series? Well, some of you might say Ubisoft, with its reputation, should not do this. But what if I was to helm the projects? This is just wishful thinking based on my experience, my wishes and hopes for the series. And no, I would not change Sands of Time to be darker and edgier, nor about Warrior Within being more lighthearted and in line with Sands of Time in terms of tone and direction and art style. Those two games, although miles apart from each other in terms of tone and direction, I believe they earned their place in the community regardless of their direction and tone. And let's address the cut contents for each game at the start. First of all, there's this great channel, POP Tutorials. They have done all the dirty work of going through different interviews, different game files, unused assets in the games. You should really check them out, and sorry if there were any inaccuracies in my old videos. And at the same time, I don't want to just say let's add all that in, because there's a reason why they were cut or changed in their final projects. Either it was a lack of time for polishing, meaning the mechanic or content is there, it just requires a lot of effort to bring it up to standard, or difficulties implementing that cut thing. In summary, go check out POP Tutorials. I won't be using the cut content, and let's go. So, my name is Farek, and I'm a game developer, and in this parallel universe, I have ascended to Ubisoft to helm the remake of the Sands of Time series. Here's how I would go about it. First things first, Sands of Time, I played the original a few weeks ago. It was great, it was revolutionary, but the combat, man, that was just bad. I still can't get over it, and I don't think it will fly in 2024. Even in 2003, people were complaining about this. I was thinking about this a lot, and I don't think the right way of going about things is to just port the combat system from Warrior Within. If that is to happen, the enemies needs to be redesigned, but I don't want to do that. So let's take out the offenders out of the system and figure it out from there. No more consuming, no more enemies have to be consumed by the dagger or no other way around it. I read somewhere that Jordan Mechner decided this to keep the magic in the game instead of just swordplay combat. I actually respect that, but I don't think this is the right way of going about it. It's annoying, and no more charging the checkpoint with respawning enemies while not being sure that you're making an actual difference in the combat, or this enemy is just a 10th enemy in a 20 enemy combat and the next one is gonna pop up the second you destroy this one. This is just bad. Now, from this point we can move to many directions, keep the enemies the same, but give them new animations and moves, while giving Prince a better targeting system, better counter, redesign some of the enemies to become mini-bosses or elites, or give more moves to Prince, a combo system that emphasizes Prince as an acrobatic fighter instead of a brute. But I think a middle ground works best. About the birds, remove the birds, they don't make sense at all in this game. The freaking bass is a waste of time, throw them out of the window as well. Fix the goddamn camera. Still, the camera angles makes you second guess everything you do. This applies to Warrior Within as well. I'm not sure about the Two Thrones, it felt much better in that game. And let's talk about Farah in this game. Farah in this game wouldn't join you in combat at all. Sometimes I felt like I'm playing an escort mission all the way. Turn the friendly fire off or implement some good AI for her. Maybe redesign some of the levels, enemies, or platforming so that inclusion of her in this game doesn't make you feel bad for doing stuff with her. You know, not to annoy you all the time. About the story, I was disappointed with the Grand Rewind. It's without a major twist. It was all a dream, go do something about it. I'd say keep it without any major repercussions, but some twist is needed. I know about the Haka, but on its own it's lackluster. We already knew we were going to defeat Vizier and save the day, but make it more interesting. I don't know, maybe those who turn into sand creatures now seem different to Prince, namely Shahraman, father of Prince, because we need him to be an actual father figure for Prince considering the later events that happens in later titles. Oh, by the way, redesign the Vizier fight. There are no real boss fights in the Sands of Time. Vizier is a mob that you have to kill 3 times. Shahraman is supposed to be a boss, but it's also a mob. Actually designed some enemies for the boss fights. Well, one thing to note is that one last minute cut happened for Sands of Time. And the griffin that we fight in Warrior Within was supposed to be in Sands of Time originally. Don't add that in, it's already in Warrior Within, but design boss fights for this game. Moving on from Sands of Time, yes, forgot one thing to mention, the graphics and art style. I think I said in my previous videos that I don't care about the graphics as long as it's not looking like shit, and I don't know about realistic style for Sands of Time, so I would suggest a heavily stylized graphics for Sands of Time, and for others, go with whatever works best for each title. Sands of Time, heavily stylized, and the darker we go towards that. The Island of Time and the Haka need to look their part right, not cartoonish. Speaking of Warrior Within, you might think this is the Warrior Within part, but no. I'm going to Forgotten Sands. Let me cook. Forgotten Sands, although being a very subpar experience compared to the trilogy, feels extremely rushed, the combat is meh, the talent tree as magic is extremely meh, the story fails to achieve what it wants to do, lacks impact, the monsters are just bland, but one of the initial targets for this game was to show how Prince went from teenage boy to edgelord, and Ubisoft actually tried to do that one at a time as well. This Battles of Prince of Persia, although compared to the trilogy, seems like a very cheap cash grab to exploit the hardcore fans, but the intent was there, and Corey May wrote the story for it. So let's take that intent and implement it in Forgotten Sands. One quick thing to note, while I was writing the script for this video, I realized there are 4 different versions of this game, one for each console, with different storylines, different gameplay, and all of that, while using the same name and the same marketing image. But I'm gonna use the PC, Xbox, the most major one version since I know it and I played it. I sincerely believe if we got to see how Prince changed from Sands of Time to Warrior Within, it was going to be better received overall, so I'm keeping it. By the way, I absolutely love some of the ideas that they were doing in Forgotten Sands, water freezing, the past materializing and using them in platforming and acrobatics. The teleporting thing midair, good stuff, so let's keep those in. The combat needs a complete overhaul. Give Prince some combos, the power/normal attacks are very bland, and the enemies just exacerbate this combat system. They need extreme redesign on the combat front, but the main thing that I'm gonna spend time about in Forgotten Sands is the narrative and story. I will split the Forgotten Sands into 2 parts, the first part being the story that happened in the game. When Malik dies at the end, he is the brother of Prince. Prince finally faces some sort of repercussions of his actions, because he had the chance to fix the situation before it would get out of hand, and losing Malik, his hesitation out of not willing to go against his brother in this scene caused him to lose Malik. Let's work on that. This ain't the end point of the story, this is where Prince starts to question himself. Maybe he should have shown more power. He should have been much more bold than what he was. Maybe he develops a very distorted view of the world because of what happened in the Sands of Time, and he escaped total repercussions and calamity. And now in the face of his brother's death, he thinks if he had more power over the Sands of Time, he could escape this fate. Now what I'm about to tell you is a shitty story that I wrote for this script. It's based on Battles of Prince of Persia, the Nintendo DS game. Now he returns to Babylon. He's talking with Darius, one of his mentors. The Haka shows up. Darius saves Prince by throwing him out of the way, but dying in the process. And Prince flees. This is not a gameplay moment. We're keeping the Haka in Warrior Within. Now our prince goes to the city that Maharaja rules to talk with Farah and her father, because Maharaja in this timeline was the first one to go to the Island of Time and retrieving the hourglass and artifacts of time, and keep Maharaja in the story as well, give him a more prominent role instead of being off screen all the time. But Maharaja will be a dick to Prince, because if you remember at the start of Sands of Time, we attacked the city of Maharaja. Let's make it so that Maharaja is happy that after the Grand Rewind, his city is not attacked. That isn't completely happy that a neighboring country tried to attack his city, and isn't completely helpful for the prince. Maharaja sends Prince to the box of thousands restraints, thinking that the Haka is a deva that can be captured. But he knows that Vizier set up some fucked up shit in that box that was mentioned in Battle's game. Meanwhile, show Farah giving the Medallion of Time to him, so people won't question why Prince has the Medallion of Time in Warrior Within, and most importantly, keep the time powers in the game. And while he's on the second part of the game, let's make his animations and fighting more brutal, to show his darkening in the gameplay as well. He goes to find and open a box. Another calamity starts. Many devas escape. Seeing this, he thinks Maharaja betrayed him. He goes back to Babylon to mobilize an army to attack Maharaja, but his father keeps him there. The Devas he released killed her mother. Shahraman doesn't believe the events of SOT in Sands of Time, but Shahraman knows how to deal with the Devas, and they together go to fix the situation. During this time, their relationship strains even harder. Even though he is his son, loss of her wife because of him make him go mad many times. While the prince is stuck between rock and a hard place out of extreme guilt helps his father. But one of the last things he does is attacking Maharaja's city, thinking he would take revenge for his mother, but this just breaks more things. Shahraman strikes an alliance with Maharaja after the disastrous attack that happens by the prince, taking full responsibility and talking some sense to Maharaja because the Devas attacked Maharaja's cities as well. Prince is given one last chance to fix the situation. He does it, no matter what happens or how he does it, but leaves immediately. Guilt and regret is driving him more cynical and violent, and because of the Haka, he's on the move all the time, and the result of that is turning into a callous shell that's reduced to only to save his own life. That story sets up the arc that Prince needed with his father, because we see Shahraman dead in the Two Thrones, and he was talking about it before it, and it didn't make any sense because suddenly Prince reminded of his father and the disagreements they had, which we never got to see. So that's one thing solved, and now, most importantly, we have the edgelord that we love. Let's go to Warrior Within. Let's talk about music for a second. Stuart Chatwood has done the OST for the trilogy. I would hire him to drive the OSTs for all the games to perfection. Nothing major, but hey, a shameless plug wouldn't hurt. This is a track that I wrote based off of one of the tracks in Warrior Within. I think it's pretty good, even though it's my first thing, and in some parts the guitars are out of tune, but I'm proud of it still. Go check it out. Okay, enough with all of that. Now the first thing that I want to mention about both Warrior Within and the Two Thrones is that they're both rushed as f***. The Two Thrones was made in 9 months. Warrior Within in 12 months. It still isn't enough compared to the Sands of Time taking almost full 2 years or even more, and I still applaud them for making those games in such a short time and being almost feature complete and seeing no major bugs in the game. But holy shit, the first thing that I would do is to let them cook and not force the developers into a brutal crunch. Just give them the time that they need. And for Ubisoft to not change their stance once they see shit hit the fan. Hold on, that's for Two Thrones. While we remain on Warrior Within, I gotta say I wouldn't change a thing in the combat. It's still one of the best combat systems I have ever seen, and I have not seen any other game top it, in this style at least. I know there are a lot of good games with great combat systems, but this one still takes the cake for me. What I would change is the story and character development of Prince, Shadi, and Kalina. I think the intent was for the Sand Wraith sections to be longer. There's actually levels designed for a Sand Wraith in Revelations, and see Shadi and Kalina and their interactions through his eyes, but flesh them out even more. More interactions with the Prince and Wraith as well. And even more writings on the wall from Maharaja. Some world building wouldn't hurt and makes this cinematic more believable. Maharaja suddenly decided to write stuff on the wall. The other thing that people complain about Warrior Within is backtracking and how the castle is laid out and the map is kinda non-functional. It's just a piece of art. Although I really like the game as it is, made me to learn the castle with visual cues and stuff, but a real map wouldn't hurt. And in Revelations they added in more levels, but it was in a way that the backtracking parts became longer. If I recall correctly, those levels were added in because the feedback was not enough acrobatics and platforming was in this game. This will require some heavy restructuring of the Island of Time, but re-implementing the 2 towers, the gardens and the mechanical tower, that at the end there's more acrobatics and there's a way for you to go back to the castle on a very shorter path. Now onto the Two Thrones. This screenshot shows the marketing folk in Ubisoft loved the idea for a more mature and brutal, cynical prince. Now I would like them to not undo their decision and follow through with what they were doing, because it doesn't make sense. A character can get broken, grow violent, and grow older, and become mature, but a character suddenly doesn't get their teenage voice back.
Do not worry, Kylina. No harm will come to you in Babylon.
Come for me, then.
Doesn't demote to a man-child all of a sudden.
I eagerly await your response.
I have heard tales, wondrous tales of a beautiful and brave princess of India.
Does not need to go to horny jail and try to awkwardly date another gal when their previous girlfriend died in front of their eyes hours or a day ago. No, this does not make any sense. I've seen people claiming that the Dark Prince is the guy from Warrior Within. No, he's a clown compared to the guy from Warrior Within. I know Prince needs a redemption arc, but this is not the way. For anything, at the end of Warrior Within, they already started this arc.
What you've seen, what you think you've seen in the timeline.
Then you know I have no choice.
There is always a choice, Kylina.
To find his softer side again, recognizing that Kylina was just like him and they were both trying to escape their fate. Let's continue with that and set up the Dark Prince with what happens at the start of Two Thrones. His girlfriend died in front of his eyes. The rage and agony is ripping him apart. This will manifest the Dark Prince, while on the other hand, remembering his time with Kylina and things he has done during the remade Forgotten Sands is pushing him to do right by his people. And let's address the elephant in the room, the game or project named Kindred Blades that was replaced by the Two Thrones. I even covered it in this video. But after some time, I grew to despise the idea, even though the things that I mentioned would go well with Kindred Blades. The dark tone and direction would continue in that game. But to be honest, the open world things, knowing how Ubisoft creates open world games nowadays, I'd appreciate if we did not do that here. For gameplay, some small annoyances. The animations that were ported in from Warrior Within does not match the knife or the dagger of time that Prince gets in the Two Thrones. I'm not saying remove the stealth out of the game, but give Prince a sword, any sword, so at least the animations match. I actually love the boss fights, but hot damn, Vizier looks hideous in servant form. Concept art was good, but how he looks in the game, oh boy. Maybe add in some questionable actions by the Dark Prince as well, because he just talks the talk, and Prince himself is shown to be in control most of the time. Maybe a morality system works here. There are some choices along the way that Prince will make and results in different endings and different relationships with the characters in the game. The people, the old man, and Farah. Talking of Farah, I'd appreciate that Farah not be horny like in the first game.
Leave me. My love.
And the dynamic between the two takes another form. Again, Prince just lost his girlfriend. The relationship was lost at the end of Sands of Time. With the timeline being altered again, Farah doesn't even know Prince. Making them horny doesn't make sense for the last time. They are 7 years older at this point. Let's work on that. One prince and one princess. Stuck in a catastrophe. Prince is trying to do right by his people. Farah knows the burden and is only helpful along the journey. Only maybe at the very end slightly hint at a romantic resolve for these two. And that's it. I wouldn't change anything about the Two Thrones except maybe the Dark Prince combat sections. Maybe go in on a heavy hack and slashy combat for that, because it really changes how the game plays and how it feels. But I don't know, I'm going without a script on this one. I forgot to write the script. Yeah, that was kind of long. But my closing point is that even I laid out a very general idea of what I'm gonna do, even if it happens, we're back into the reality now, it won't play out the same way I planned it. Game development is very hard, and it's really based on constant iteration and testing stuff and doing things over and over again. And no one knows how the game or any game is going to turn out once they begin a project. A vision is certainly very good, but it most likely just acts as a guideline that might be discarded once certain features get tested, or realize one feature is at odds with other things in the game. And again, with the cut content, some of them got cut for really good reasons. And while I dislike about many decisions about how Ubisoft handled the IP, I really, really respect the whole team and effort they put in the trilogy. Every single one of them. Even the studio of Casablanca that worked on the pre-production of the Two Thrones, and they failed, and the project was handed to Montreal. Every single one of them, and every single project. So thank you to every single person who made this SOT trilogy happen and make it so great. And that's it for me for this video. I hope you enjoyed this fun little thing. Tell me about how I did, or what would you change in the games? I would like to know your opinions, and I think I will be playing The Lost Crown after this. I think it will be released in 2 or 5 days. I'm not sure about the early access thing that they have done, but that's it for me on this video. Thanks for watching. See you guys on the next one.